Is the mic on? Yeah, now I can hear it. Hi, everyone. Hello, Hamburg. The new BlackBerry. And believe it or not, yes, we play. Now, I'll not try to make a big secret of this. This is what you will think when you think of BlackBerry. You think of suits. You think of all that sort of stuff. But all that is about to change, because what you are getting with us now is more something like that. You think of BlackBerry devices being something like this, fantastic single-purpose email things. But what we're having is something like this. It is Oscar mentioned it. It's our new tablet, which is extremely powerful. Which it runs on a C++ based OS, multi-threaded. It's blazingly fast, very easy to port to, etc. I'll have Sean here with me, who is RIM's head of gaming R&D, so he's actually someone who did something slightly more useful than law in his university days, who will walk you through the that piece in a bit more depth later. Now, you think of platforms when you think of BlackBerry, when you think of BlackBerry as a whole, that is, something like this. But with the Playbook OS and then forthcoming BlackBerry 10, which is the basically the next iteration of that operating system, which will power RIM's or BlackBerry's handhelds, coming sometime in autumn, I believe. You will get basically all the tooling you could wish for. We're busy adding specific gaming engines. Shiva's on there, Unity is on there. We're speaking to a lot of the other folks as well. Marmalade is in there. So if you build it on Marmalade, you can actually compile out. Scrollloop, of course, my old little baby. Is powering it and is shipping together with Playbook OS 2.0 now. Tons of tools, tons of libraries. If there's anything missing, speak to Sean. He'll put it in there. When it comes to users and the demographic of BlackBerry, most of you might think, in particularly in Germany, that is the case. Will think of it as a device predominantly used by the stiff corporate types. You will think of security and email and enterprise CRM and all that BS, but certainly of nothing else. Now what you get is a cheesy corporate photograph, and it's not the girl, no, it's the handset. Forget that though. What you get is actually one of the most vibrant social communities that you can find on a mobile ecosystem. And those are numbers not that we hope to achieve in a couple of years' time. They're real numbers. There's 50 million active BBM users. BBM is probably the most used mobile communication app in the world anywhere. You have the ability to use that power by integrating the respective API straight into your game. In a variety of ways. This can go from using BBM chat in game, but you can also use it to, just update the status, etc. Those of you who have been, I don't know, who've ever watched a couple of English teenagers interacting, most of them run around with BlackBerries, and that is arguably a very, very powerful way to spread the word virally, because the people they have on their BBM, they're their actual friends. They're not some people that they picked up online somewhere, but they're the people they communicate with daily and in most cases hourly and even more often. Then baked into the OS now is Scrollloop. Scrollloop is a mobile social gaming platform. We were most often, I think, compared to OpenFaint. With the one big difference, in particular from a game developer point of view, we never forced our own branding and UI down anyone's throat, so you can you can run Screwloop in your game without anyone actually realizing that it's in there. If you play, for instance, Konami PS 2012 on iOS, the challenges, achievements, leaderboards, profiles, etc., that all is Screwloop, and you won't see anything because, of course, if you spend a lot of brain and resource and money on building a game and building a brand with and of your game, the last thing you want to have is someone come crashing down on you and destroying that experience. Screwloop is cross-platform, so you can, by integrating this across platforms, allow your users to play not only against friends that happen to have an iPhone or only against friends that happen to be on Android, but a BlackBerry user can play against an iPhone user, and so on and so forth. Comes with tons of things, and in previous years I've often spoken about the social gaming side of this. If you want to know more on this, let me know. Now, when it comes to games, and this is my new job basically within BlackBerry, this is what BlackBerry had. This is sort of the equivalent of Snake on a BlackBerry. It's called Brick Breaker. And other than that, there wasn't much. Now, these are games that are out today on the playbook. We're adding more and more and more very, very rapidly now. All the big boys have really signed on and are very interested. The platform is extremely powerful. It will be forward compatible to BlackBerry 10 handhelds, which means that its RIM is shipping normally what, 15 million devices a quarter, somewhere there. So that within a year or so, you will be looking at an install base of anywhere between whatever 60, 70 million devices, and all of a sudden you have a platform that is actually quite worthwhile supporting. Now, lastly, what you think when you think of we all need to make money with this, and you think, well, that RIM surely is a bit of a desert in that respect. Now, that is not actually true. Sorry? BlackBerry sees more paid downloads than Android market, and that includes the current generation BlackBerry 6, 7 devices. It records 43% more daily downloads per app than even the Apple App Store. And we can argue now long and hard if that is because RIM has only 60,000 apps in their App Store and not 500,000 or so, but it is still, I think, something quite remarkable. Revenues tend to be higher, and last but not least, we support PayPal and credit card, but because BlackBerry has always been behaving a little bit better towards mobile network operators than most other OEMs did, we rapidly start rolling out carrier billing. So in countries where people either don't have credit cards or they don't want to use credit cards, they have the option on a revenue share identical to what's now the industry standard to build straight to carrier bill. So you can, I don't know, Latin America, Southeast Asia, etc., are countries where you will see much higher sales through this payment option than anywhere else. And with this, I will shut up and hand over to Sean, who will be walking you through in a little more detail, in much more detail, through the ifs and hows and what to do if you want to jump onto this. I'll be up later for questions. Thank you.
Hello? Hey. Alrighty. You hear me? There we go. My name's Sean Paul Taylor. I work at Research in Motion for several years now. Primarily, my focus was working in the R&D department. I worked on advanced graphics using OpenGLES 1.1. I wrote the bindings. I have a team of really good programmers that focus around graphics. And recently, my team now focuses primarily on gaming R&D. So our goal is to make an amazing development environment for gamers moving to the BlackBerry platform. So the focus on my session here will be primarily on giving you a basis and a background on how you can actually write native games using the BlackBerry native SDK. So first of all, I just want to give you a quick overview. Some people, they have no idea we even have a native SDK. The playbook, it's built on QNX operating system. It's a multi-kernel architecture. It's a very powerful operating system. I actually believe it's probably one of the best operating systems out there, with that unbiased. But I've used like pretty much every operating system, and I was pretty skeptical when I used it, but it's amazing. I want to quickly go over just, if you actually want to write a native game for BlackBerry, what you do. So I'm going to go over a quick setup. I'm going to talk about how to deploy games to the simulator and the devices. I'm going to talk a little bit about cross-platform architecture and design. I'm going to go over some of BlackBerry's open source initiatives. I'm going to talk about a new gaming framework that we wrote as a contribution kind of to the gaming community to try to hopefully actually draw more energy around understanding what's under the hood in mobile gaming, because I don't think a lot of the engineers fully understand all the depth and complexity. So I'm just going to go over that a little bit, and then talk about using professional game engines. So to getting started, this is a link you can go to. You go to blackberry.com/game developer. I posted a blog there. It has just a landing page. It gives you pretty much everything you need to get started. So if you go there, you'll have probably everything you need to get started. So really the steps are kind of like a lot of other development environments for mobile. You request a signing account, and you get your signing keys. They get emailed to you. You install and configure the native SDK, it's currently a set of command line tools, and we also have a Mementix IDE, which is built on Eclipse CDT. We have then what you're going to do is install and configure your simulator. If you have a device, which I recommend getting one, you configure your device for development, and then you create your first project. So for the signing keys, you just fill out a web request form, just kind of like iOS. Then you're going to get an email back, and you're going to get one for creating your key store for signing the apps, and one for creating the debug tokens. So for installing and configuring the simulator, it's actually really easy. All you do is you go get VMware Player, or Fusion if you're on Mac. It's basically a VMware image. So a lot of people are familiar with VMware, and you open the virtual machine, and it runs, and you can see it's up there. That's kind of basically what the playbook image looks like. And then you can, by default, the playbook simulator is already in development mode, so you don't have to switch it. If you have a device, all you do is plug the USB in. You install the BlackBerry Device Manager. That requires restart. Some people already have that installed if they have BlackBerries. And then you put your device in development mode. You just click the settings. Then you go to the security, and then you put it in development mode, and that stays in there for 10 days to keep the device secure if you want to use it for normal use after. And then you just set a password the first time only. So for creating your first project, what you really do is I would pick something like the following block. So this is just a sample. It's using OpenGLES. You can walk through the wizard. It generates everything you need. And then all you do is there's a deployment wizard that starts right off the start. It'll have a device set up, so it'll find your device automatically. You can't really see that, sorry. I should have made that bigger. And then you go through the signing registration process. You just pick the files, the emails that they sent you, and then you get your debug token file, and then you build, and it'll run right on the simulator of the device. So the next section I want to talk a little bit about is just how to develop a cross-platform layer. I think now that there's wider mobile players in the market and people have more coverage, people have already started to do this anyhow. It's not just Objective-C for the entire app. And some people like Objective-C, so they do that. I'm not the biggest Objective-C fan, but that's just me. I write all of my code in really in C and C++. I usually, for a lot of the frameworks we write in C++. So here's just the entry point. Everyone's like, well, how do I get started? Well, it's really just as simple as finding the main entry points to the different platforms. So Windows, you have your Win main. iOS and Mac, you have your NS application main. And Android, if you're doing NDK, which you probably are, if you're writing games, you have your Android main. And then here's QNX, just to give you an example. I mean, it's a main. So it's really just get in your loop, and then you're basically getting called back there. Inside your setup, you're getting your callback on vSync, and it's going very fast. So one thing to point out is you really want to, regardless of the platform, a lot of people are like, well, how do I separate the Objective-C? How do I separate the JNI bindings for the Android portions? How do I separate the QNX code, which isn't a problem? What you do is you just write a platform layer that just has usually like one or a few files that you can either put your rendering device on there. Pretty much all the ones on here, you can use OpenGL or OpenGLES. Windows Phone is an exception. So, so you don't really need an abstract renderer like a lot of people usually have to do on mobile. But you can do that if you want. Also, to make it a little bit more generic, you're going to put all of your platform-specific code inside these files in your platform layer, and you're only going to deploy the platform or build the library for that platform portion into the platform layer, and then you're going to put all your game, which is platform-independent C++ code. So talking about the QNX platform and the BlackBerry development environment for the current playbook and upcoming BlackBerry 10 platform, which is going to be all the new devices in our new development environment for later this year. Something that people want to know is, well, what are the libraries that you have that are available? So, we have really strong POSIX and STL support. The guys are pretty passionate about the operating system. So Dan Dodge is very architecturally furious to make sure it's the best. And he's a hardcore Unix guy. So they are like IEEE POSIX compliant. They're actually one of, there's a few that are compliant, but they've actually passed on every single compliance level. They use it in NASA. So, so with that you get, of course, the C++ library. It's Dinkum, or you can use this without Dinkum strictness for GCC. You have libsockets for networking, OpenGLES 1.1 and 2.0. The hardware on that is actually a Imagination chip. So if you're already coding for an iOS device, it's actually very, very close to the iPad 2. So if you're familiar with that chipset, you can use all the same texture compression algorithms you were using. And you can use all your shaders. They actually just work, most of them. I've actually rarely seen any that don't work. We have OpenAL now. It comes on the device, right on the device. So, and there's libalut. I don't know if anyone really uses that because the audio files for RAW are pretty big, so a lot of people. So I'll get to what else you can use. For imaging and compression, we have libpng, libjpeg, and the other compression Z and BZ2. FreeType comes on the device. I don't think a lot of people use FreeType at runtime, so some people do. Usually a lot of game developers will pre-generate all their fonts, textures, and then write glyph tables and information about that. So you have your math library and XML and database. So one thing that we're pretty excited about is our goal is really to make it so you can take your code and it pretty much is painless to try to like get it to compile and just actually get it running on the platform right away. Usually that's a big, roadblock. People start off with their code base and they're like, oh, I'm getting linker errors. It's missing the library, so I got to find a replacement library and this and that. So what we did is we have an open source initiative that has, all these libraries here. So, Boost, Box2D, Bullet, Lua, Cocos2D-X, and Gameplay. I'll talk about that one. So, these are really popular physics and framework libraries, and Cocos2D-X, very popular open source cross-platform 2D game engine. So those are there. Hopefully that'll make you feel more comfortable that you can jump in. For the tools in IDE, yeah, like I said, we have the command line tool chains and the IDE. It has GCC. And you have GDB, so a lot of people are really familiar with that. Your game developers and and all the programmers that are using these, those are the ones they usually are familiar with anyhow. We have tools inside the IDE and from the command line for debugging and profiling. The IDE actually works on Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux, and one of the features that come with it is the SDK for like Volker was mentioning for ScoreLoop to actually add in these social aspects into your game really easily. So one of the things that we're doing, to make sure that the platform's really good and ready for game developers is using it ourselves. So one of the things we did was build an entire game engine, yes. We call it more of a gaming framework. If you think of Cocos2D-X, it's like a 3D framework that has mesh, everything pretty much you would imagine to write games. We're not really trying to make it competitive in the professional market to compete with that, because that wasn't really the goal of it. The goal of it was really to explore our platform and make sure that it's extremely competitive offering for being a development platform, as well as we're focusing a lot on learning and user guides to make sure people understand everything from what are the nuts and bolts in game development. I mean, a lot of people with using game engines, they're missing out on this. So I just think it's important. It's something I just kind of said, that's a personal initiative. I'm going to make more game developers, people that actually know about like how to actually optimize your rendering and batching and all this fun stuff, making sure your shaders are using effective and efficient material systems and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll show you where you can get that if you want for internet assistance. So I mean, here's an example of what we did. I mean, you start off with this very exciting spaceship game. This is started off with the concept that the guys that we've acquired, the Astonishing Tribe, they're user experience guys, and they just whipped up kind of like a little level for me in Maya. We started off, I told them what I wanted with that, my very exciting diagram there, and then they went through and put it in Maya. I brought it through. We just imported it into Collada and FBX. You then bring the very large interchange files, which you don't want to use on your game engine, into an encoded binary format. So we have all the code on how you do that. I mean, it's just, we didn't try to make it too tricky. We just tried to make it like dead obvious and very, generically efficient. I think it's pretty efficient. I mean, then you just basically load those binary files, you write your code, and you can deploy and run the game. So we don't have a micro HDMI cable here, so I was going to show you a few of those samples. So yeah, if you want to find out more about that framework, you can go to github.com/blackberry/gameplay. We have all the code there. It runs actually on the Playbook. It runs on my iPhone and my Android and Mac and on Windows. So we have implementations to help you understand why we fit into the ecosystem really well, and why I think there's like one file per platform that I've had to actually do to make it cross-platform. It doesn't cover every single aspect of cross-platform, but it just covers all the basics. If you want to use a professional game engine, like Volker mentioned, we support Unity with Union Publishing. We support Marmalade SDK and we actually support Shiva 3D right now. There's a bunch of new game engines that are actually in the works, so probably if you listening closely on the BlackBerry sites, you'll probably hear a lot more to come soon, and we're going to have new development tools as well that are going to be coming along all the time with the new platform. So that's my email. If you actually want to go and write some games on BlackBerry and you get stuck at all, email me. I have a team of like Ninja, like I said, game developer guys. They love, I don't care if you have a shader problem or if you have, my library won't compile and I laugh at you, but I won't laugh at you. I will be like, yes, okay, I know how to fix that really quickly. So I love like just talking to the game developers and finding out how they're gonna like hopefully leverage a lot of the unique experiences that we have with Score Loop and the BBM community, trying to make your app more viral. If you really hook into the Score Loop APIs, that really drives sales. A lot of people don't look at that aspect of the actual huge BBM community. My wife, she was funny. She said, have you heard of this thing called BBM? I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I worked here for 7 years, like, and like everyone. So anyhow, that's just that's kind of like really what you're getting with the BBM, and there's APIs actually in our platform to actually hook into those people's social communities and really reach out to their friends in their communities. So that's just a really unique aspect. So I just wanted to take this time to see if anyone had any questions at all about development on BlackBerry.
Cool, we have a question. Excellent. We've got two. Brilliant. I can talk quite loudly anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, that one.
Thank you. It's a quick question.
Yeah.
We would like to develop games on this platform, of course, and what about in-app purchase? Have you mentioned it, or will it come with it, or when on rollout? Because freemium games, as you know, free-to-play and in-app purchase will be, microtransactions will be key. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Volker. Yeah, AppWorld supports it. I don't know the details about. I'll come speak to Volker. He'll tell you about AppWorld, about how you can add that in. There's also we also have payment service API directly in the SDK.
Fantastic.
So you can use that as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem.
And there was another question down here.
Yes.
Gentleman on the second row.
Hello, thank you for so inspiring talk. My name is Oleg, I'm working for NVIDIA, and I have a little bit more technical question. Which kind of profiling tools for the code do you support?
So we support memory profilers, CPU profilers. We don't have, you can use the GPU profilers from Imagination. They actually work with it. We're going to have, new chipsets as we move forward as well. We're right now, Imagination is the primary chipset on this. So I mean, if you're doing BlackBerry development on 6 or 7 game development, we actually have Qualcomm chipsets there. So if you're actually doing any game development on those, you can actually use the Qualcomm profiling tools. Those are, so that's for the GPU side, and yeah, and so it's actually a really good profiling suite inside the Momentix, and it has like every counter possible. So yeah, if you want to know more details, I can give you direct information on and go through it with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Cool. Any more questions? One in the far corner over here.
Hey.
Over there.
Hey.
So a little bit of a run for our help. If there's anyone else with questions as well, let me know, because it'd be nice to be able to make sure the mics go to the right places.
Hi. This is probably a question for Volker. I'm not sure if I missed whether there were any numbers that you were providing on the install base of the playbook, either currently or what you are expecting it to achieve over the coming months.
No, you didn't miss them. I didn't mention them. And I'm not allowed to mention them, I think.
No.
There you go. So, but suffice to say, they're slightly below where the iPad is today, right? And there's no secret. So that's the reason why I mentioned the forward compatibility. What basically Playbook OS is, and what the tablet does today, it is the first iteration of BlackBerry's next generation OS and devices. And I think Sean's been playing every single game that's out on the Playbook and tried to, if it would run on the handheld. And I believe he has yet to find one that requires code changes. So
minor the screen resolution is.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the
going up a
screen
little.
resolution. You know, is if you're working on a handheld phone device, you have different size screen real estate, and you may want to have a look at the screen resolution. But that is about it.
Sorry, if I can come back to you on that one, because we want to deploy on the playbook, but we're looking at doing it from Flash. And I'm not sure if that allows us to be able to work for the next gen devices.
You will. Yeah, we're going to maintain support for the Flash runtime on it, definitely. I mean, we look at it as there's different runtimes. I mean, these are middleware kind of players that we put them more on the side. We don't base them all. A lot of people I love when people kind of like look at the architectures that are kind of going down, and you know, really the BlackBerry architecture has HTML5 as well as native and HTML5 right now is a bridging point between the 6.7 and then the QNX-based operating systems. But Flash, we've introduced that. We have a great runtime that's working on the playbook, and I've been told it's one of the best. And we're going to maintain that. It's not going to go away. So it's just we just think that we wanted to make sure that we have an amazing also native offering, and that's available. It really hooks into the heart of the QNX operating system.
And let me just add one point to the whole commercial side of things. I am working actively with developers on supporting them to get across, and we do realize that because it's Playbook OS or QNX Playbook OS BlackBerry 10 is a fledgling platform, and so if you ponder doing this, but struggle with either the numbers or don't know how to or whatever, come see me. It's we've put a couple of programs in place to help people port, to support and cushion the commercial risks that any fledgling platform really has.
Cool. I know we had another question up here. Just take the mic too.
Hello. Two questions. It's not technically a question. It's about what is the target audience actually, and second one is what will be the business model.
So is the question what's the target audience on 7.1?
Yeah. Yeah. What target audience do you plan?
For 7.1 or for the playbook?
Both.
Okay, so I mean the target audience is everyone and that has a BlackBerry. I mean, I think we went to 75 million subscribers. There was a 30% increase. So I think for game purchases, we're starting to get more demographics about it. We can probably get you more information on that. Volker's been recently trying to gather a lot. I mean, these questions are going to come up a lot, I think, so we're really driving them back to the app world and actually finding out, because people put some minimal information. You have to have a BBM account to actually purchase games, actually on the app world. And I think the minimal one was like male and female. I think they're starting to add some more information or consider it, but Volker can.
It's not a BBM account, but you basically sign up to the BlackBerry ID as part of the sign-up process. The overall demographic for BlackBerry generally varies quite a bit by region. When you have, for instance, here in Germany or in Scandinavia, BlackBerry still tend to be more corporate devices, so it skews older and male. If you go to England, I mentioned that earlier, it skews much younger. Latin America, Southeast Asia are pretty much across the board, but very consumer-driven. North America is a wild mix, and following the I don't know, over the last 18 months or so, it probably started skewing a little older because, as you probably have all read somewhere, BlackBerry got a little bit under pressure by iOS and Android, unsurprisingly. Now, that last bit we expect to reverse with BlackBerry 10. which is, last but not least, when it comes to media consumption, to interaction, to gameplay, to web browsing, etc., something that is certainly right there with the best of them. But it's if you want to come see me, I have some stats and I keep compiling them. I will probably be dancing around at very many conferences over the next couple of months, so I'll share it as we go along.
Great. Anyone for a last question? Okay, well, I'd like to thank Volker and Sean for their time. I'm sure they'll want to show you
If anyone wants to see any games on it.
Absolutely. So if anyone wants to see some games, do that, but after my presentation. No, if you want. I'm just about to get myself set up as well, so...